Hi, it's Zahdi. I haven't done a message in a really long time, and I'm sorry about that. But I've started getting those little pokes, being a psychic and a medium a lot of the time when I'm communicating with spirits like spirit guides or earth spirits or other kinds of spirits that are around us. A lot of the time they just wait for me to take my own initiative, but sometimes they say, hey, say something now. You need to speak up and say something. And this is one of those times. So I'm gonna say something. Today was really rough in the human world, is what they want me to say. The planet, I think I've talked about this before, or maybe I've only talked about it in discussions that I've had around the Big Island, but to go over it again just in case I haven't. The planet right now is kind of in the midst of a battle, I guess you could say. I wrote about it in an article that you can find on my website that I'll post a link to in this video. I think I called it the war between light and dark or something like that. And the reason I felt drawn to write that article was because that I was talking to some sensitive people who were perceiving that they were in the midst of a tug of war between light side and dark side. And it's not, when I say the light and the dark, I'm not talking about like good and evil or God and Satan or anything like that. I'm really talking about something much more primordial and much more just down to the very basic and nitty-gritty. The dark, in my perception, and the perceptions of others that are kind of connected to me, is that the dark is very just, it doesn't like existence, which is kind of strange. How can something not like existence? Like, it exists. But that's just the nature of the dark. The nature of existence, to kind of segue and then I'll come back to my point, so stay with me here. The nature of existence is kind of like a spiral that grows. Think of a shoot coming out of the ground. Think of sunlight, sun rays. Think of that like primeval force kind of thrusting and willing and wanting to be born, willing itself to be born, to have action, to have creation in the world. And that's the driving force of all creation, is to participate in this like spiraling up of evolution and shining. So you, me, everything around us participates in this kind of spiral. But human beings are kind of different because we can choose how to direct our energy. You don't see this in the natural kingdom, really. So when you see plants and animals, they're not choosing, should I spiral up or should I collapse into myself? They all just spiral up naturally. But humans, for some reason, we make the choice whether to spiral up into growth or to collapse into decay and nothingness. So the nature of creation is this upward spiral. The dark, when I talk about the dark, what I'm really talking about is something that I call the uncreation. And this is what I've talked about in like talks around like Big Island. Sometimes I'll have events and meditations, and then I'll have talks about like this thing, the uncreation, and that's the same thing that I talk about in my article, the war between light and dark. And the uncreation is really, it doesn't like the spiraling up. It doesn't like the force of moving upwards and evolving. It doesn't like growth or change or happiness or joy. It rebels against that. It wants the opposite of the spiral. It wants collapsing inward. So, how did we learn about the dark and all this stuff? Well, I think if you're a light worker, you've already encountered it in one form or another. A lot of light workers have encountered events where they felt like there was a force that was trying to attach onto them, and that sort of foreign thoughts were coming into their energy. And these thoughts that were trying to come into their energy could be anything from like sadness, listlessness, depression, sometimes suicidal thoughts, and hopelessness is a really big one. Just sometimes the sudden thought that everything that you're driving towards, maybe it doesn't really matter, even though it's filled with light and you know it's filled with light and you know how worthwhile it is. Suddenly it just seems like, oh, maybe I just shouldn't do that, and it doesn't really matter. But it also feels like, if you're a light worker or an energy worker, it'll feel like a foreign sort of sensation, or maybe even like an intruder or an invasion. And so up to 2012, there were a lot of attacks in this way on an energetic level, especially for people that were holding the light, because the point up to 2012 was kind of to try to get people to collapse into themselves and not want to hold the light, not want to bring light and joy and evolution forward, to kind of give in and say, you know, anger, fear, listlessness, depression, those are real. Those are the thoughts that I'm going to give my energy to. But every time we decided not to think in that way, essentially we defeated those beings. And yeah, they are beings. Some of them are conscious and some of them are not. At the end of 2012, we reached the turning point on the planet, which is awesome. And I did talk about this in one of my past videos. I'll also link that in this one too. But we reached the turning point at the end of last year, where there had been this struggle between light and dark, and the light sort of reached the more weight. It became heavier and tipped the scales. So now the dark is just like going into decline and can't really conquer what it wanted to conquer. So, big segue. I said all of that about the uncreation in the dark to explain why it's important to sort of be present with our feelings, and also where the earth is trying to take us right now. So the planet is in the midst of a battle, and we're pretty much winning if you're on the side of light, but it's important to be conscious now at this point in time exactly what our weapons are in winning this battle, so that we can fully extinguish the dark from this planet, because it has no right to be here. It's a foreign entity to this plane, to this world, to this entire existence. It just shouldn't be here. Sorry, I feel really passionate about that because of my past life memories of being an entity attached to the planet itself, and just remembering all of that and what happened before, and just knowing that there was a time when everything was really bright, and that then the darkness came, and it was like, this is really not the nature of this creation, and it's not supposed to be here. So what is the nature of the battle? It's a battle of energy. Does that make sense? To go over really pretty shortly. Basically, all people, our energy it comes out of us, right? So no matter if you're an energy worker or if you're not, if you're a light worker or if you're not, all people, all beings, plants, animals, land, the earth, it's all imbued with an energy that we could call like emotions, or it's hard to explain. Okay, well, they want to just talk, so I'll just let them talk. Basically what she's trying to say, they're talking about me. Basically what she's trying to say is that when you feel an emotion like anger, sadness, fear, happiness, joy, guilt, it roots out of your soul and imbues itself on your surroundings, including the people around you. So anytime you feel an emotion, you're having an effect on the environment around you. Anytime that you have an emotion, they really want to stress that. Anytime you have an emotion, you're affecting the world around you. Okay, thanks. So I'm going to take over again and talk about kind of like being in Hawaii. Hawaii, the culture, the traditional culture, I've found sort of has this understanding that when you think, you're influencing all the people around you. And so it's your responsibility as a citizen to have good thoughts, or to think aloha, or think wapono. So you're responsible for the nature of your thoughts. You're responsible for not, whether you're a shaman or not, you know, whether you're a high magic worker or someone who doesn't really even know a lot about that, everyone has an energetic responsibility to everybody else. And so it's to think good thoughts, to think love and kindness and compassion for your neighbor, for all the people around you. Even if you're angry at those people, even if they wronged you in some way, you never think like bad about them, you know? So you always think compassion and you always feel compassion. And in my understanding, the reason for this is because, as they say, all of our energy imbues in the environment around us and affects the people around us and lasts. So whenever we think something or feel something, let's stress it again, whenever we think something or feel something, we're having an effect not only on ourselves and our own energy fields, but on the energy of all the people around us, on the environment around us. And what we're thinking and feeling and holding is what we're holding in the dream of planet Earth, in this massive dream that we're all participating in. So essentially what that means is that in the face of the dark, in this battle between light and dark, in the face of the dark, we can't think dark at it to win. You have to think aloha, you have to think love, light, compassion, strength, and towards yourself, joy, laughter, light, enjoying where you are and what you're doing. Being in joy is one of the highest forms of attainment towards God, the source. Just being in a state of joy. You're really reaching upwards to your higher self and bringing it into your body. Just think of a child laughing, like anywhere, in pure, full joy of just the moment and not holding back. They don't hold back that aspect of the source that comes through them, and neither should you. So your joy is your primary weapon against the dark in this battle. Your joy, your love, your compassion, your thoughts. Think good thoughts. Think aloha. Aloha, what does it mean? It's love. I'm not Hawaiian, so if you're Hawaiian, you can help me out. But from being here in the island for a while, and just being around the people and the energies of the island, I've come to understand that it's love and compassion and acceptance and tolerance and forgiveness. So think aloha and like just be in that. Thank you for listening, and there'll be more messages. Namaste.